Hey there folks, I've been wanting to make a video like this for a long time, and I finally decided now's the opportunity. I'm a big NFL watcher. I love the NFL football. I love everything that goes on in the NFL. But the thing that I don't love is the sports media when they take takes of different players and try to compare them to players of the past. It's not fair to the player, it's not fair to the person. So this video is strictly about the Josh Allen comparison to Brett Favre, and then the idea that Lamar Jackson is overrated, while Josh Allen is better than Lamar Jackson. And I'm going to show you two different takes with audio, and I want you guys to make your own reasonable assumptions off that, and then after the clips are done, I'm going to talk about each one following after. Alright, let's go ahead and start with this clip, the one involving Josh Allen on First Things First with Nick Wright and Chris Broussard.
Yes, I have been saying this and I stand by it. I'm glad a Super Bowl winning coach agrees with me. He is this generation's Brett Favre. Now I know Nick's going to say, because he said it before, only minus the 3 straight MVPs and the Super
minus
Bowl
all the things that made Favre.
Wait, no.
It was at this moment that he knew. He fucked up.
No, that's not what made Favre. You're right. He doesn't have the hardware of Favre. We'll see if he ends up getting an MVP at some point in the Super Bowl. But Nick, the way they play, the arm talent, the strength, just the physical strength of their game, the fact that on any given Sunday they can be the best quarterback in the world. You know, the recklessness, some of the negatives, the recklessness, the gunslinging, all of that stuff. That is what is similar. Now, it's a different generation, it's a different game now, so the numbers will be somewhat different. But that's what I mean.
Stylistically,
you're going to have to take the good with the bad.
Yes,
or the
I
great
buy
with
it.
the bad.
But I just want people to understand that I will be as fair as I can to Josh here, and when I do through 6 years, include Brett's first year, which was in Atlanta and he didn't even play. I won't exclude that. Let's just go tail of the tape through 6 years and just see. So Favre had won 2 MVPs, he'd been 2-time first-team All-Pro, he'd won an Offensive Player of the Year, he'd won a Super Bowl, he'd led the league in major categories. Josh has done none of it.
Yeah.
This to me, Brew, you know what it would be like if 6 years into his career, people were like, man, Vince Carter reminds me a hell of a lot of a young Michael Jordan. Well, okay, the highlights are similar. Yeah, and it was and it would have been ludicrous. Because it is being stylistically the same is not the same. And by the way, in year 7 for Favre, he went to another Super Bowl, won another league MVP, led the league in touchdowns again. Like, I bet that surprised people. Josh Allen's never led the league in passing touchdowns. He's never led the league in passing yards. He's never led the league in passer rating. He's never been a first-team All-Pro. We know he's never been an MVP. He's been to 1 conference championship game, never been to a Super Bowl, and we're comparing Brett Favre, who threw by the end of year 6 already was a Hall of Famer.
But when I say it, I'm not just comparing accomplishment.
What? Bro, what are you talking about, man?
And I think if someone had said, yeah, Vince Carter reminds me of Michael Jordan, it would have been perfectly fine. Nobody's saying he's as good as Michael Jordan. He does play a similar style. That's what people would be saying. And I think Josh is a top, like Favre obviously was always a top 5 quarterback during his prime. I think Josh is that.
No, Favre went through a period where he was hands down the best. That when you win 3 straight MVPs, you are hands down the best. And I guess reminds me of maybe I have less of an issue with McCarthy's comments than the one I've heard from you so long. Reminds me of, doesn't bother me as much as this generation's. If someone said Vince is this generation's Michael Jordan, and it's like, well, except for, he's this generation's Michael Jordan, and Nick always says, except for, the championships and the MVPs, that's
Is there this generation's Brett Favre right now?
No.
Okay. I would say he's the one, though.
Now, as you just heard there, with Nick Wright and Chris Broussard discussing Josh Allen and the Brett Favre comparisons, Nick Wright is very much correct. Josh Allen has none of the things that made Brett Favre Brett Favre. And Chris Broussard, who I do love as an analyst, he's one of my favorites, he was wrong in the aspect that Josh Allen and Brett Favre are stylistically the same. They are not. Josh Allen reminds me more of Ben Roethlisberger with how big he is and the way he plays than anything with Brett Favre. And the other things that drive me nuts with these player comparisons is when they try to take accolades out of the equation. Everyone wants to move the goalpost further down or further back to try to push their narrative. And it just doesn't work. When you're discussing a player and you're discussing a player's accolades, it has to be both. It cannot just be a nitpick situation where you pick this and this and this to make the player that player. Josh Allen is not Brett Favre. Brett Favre was Brett Favre. And the accolades are what make Favre Favre. You cannot take them away. They cannot come out of the equations. They are part of it. Now, we're going to move on to the Lamar Jackson take from Dan Patrick himself, who kind of put his foot in his mouth in this take, but you'll see what I mean once you listen to it.
There's a difference in overrated and overcovered. And I think that we make that mistake sometimes, that we overcover somebody. The media is the reason for somebody being maybe overrated, like Dak Prescott. Dak Prescott's a really good quarterback. I don't know if he's a great quarterback, but he's overcovered, and we expect him to fall in line with Troy Aikman and Roger Staubach. That's not who he is, but he's a really good quarterback. But because he gets covered so much, overcovered so much, he disappoints us. Instead of saying, man, what a great story this is. Where he was drafted, takes over for Tony Romo, and he's been a really good, at times really good, almost great quarterback. He was an MVP candidate. But we look at him. See, Justin Herbert, to me, is overrated and overcovered as well. Josh Allen, I don't see it. Now, he's overcovered. Do I think that he's overrated? I mean, he's made it to an AFC title game. If you want to say who is overrated, this is going to sound strange. I would say Lamar Jackson. From the standpoint of he's won 2 MVPs, but has nothing to show for it when he gets to the postseason. And when we look at the coverage you get, the attention you get, we want to see what your quarterback does when he gets to the postseason. It's not fair to him, but if we're looking at he's great regular season quarterback, now what do you do in the postseason? Then you would find him overrated.
So that was Dan Patrick's take. And he put his foot in his mouth twice with the Lamar Jackson comparison to Josh Allen. Because to be very clear, Josh Allen made an AFC championship. But so did Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson has done this. The difference between Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen is Lamar Jackson has regular season accolades that Josh Allen has not gotten yet. He hasn't gotten those. So the comparison that I like to draw from this is not between players. It's about what he just said. Are you overcovered or overrated? I don't believe Josh Allen's overrated, nor do I believe Lamar Jackson's overrated. I believe Josh Allen's overcovered because in the sporting Vegas betting odds, every single year for MVP, it seems like he's either number 1 or somewhere in the top 5, and I can't figure out why that is. It might have something to do with Buffalo media, but it's definitely the coverage. Lamar Jackson, however, is not overcovered. He's just not. They hardly talk about it unless it's a game that he's played. He never gets talked about. And when it comes to MVP voting odds, he rarely gets in the top 5 until about midway into the season when he's starting to roll. People's comparisons against players is just wrong. People's comparisons on calling Lamar Jackson overrated is just wrong. He's a regular season successful quarterback right now. But I know another quarterback who we consider, and some people consider, the greatest ever because of his ability to monologue on the field so well to all of his players, was Peyton Manning. He wasn't even winning Super Bowls until almost 8 years into his career, but he was winning MVPs. Lamar Jackson will one day win a Super Bowl. That's my belief. Josh Allen, I don't believe he will. And that's when we get to this part, my last take. I feel sorry for Josh Allen because he's in a conference with Joe Burrow, Patrick Mahomes, and Lamar Jackson. You've got 3 of those quarterbacks in that conference. Josh Allen is going to have a Phillips River style career, in my opinion. Phillips Rivers was a good quarterback. Not a great quarterback, but he was a good quarterback. And he was in a conference from 2004 to 2019 with Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, and Ben Roethlisberger, who between the three of them went to 16 of the available Super Bowls. That is practically an entire career for most quarterbacks. And it just isn't fair to Josh, because that's how I view him right now. I believe he will have that type of career. I'm not comparing players. No, I'm saying that's the kind of career he will have when it comes to trying to get to the big game. Because when you're in a conference with quarterbacks like that, it's just how it goes. Just keep in mind, Phillips Rivers was in a conference with Tom Brady, 9 Super Bowls, Peyton Manning, 4 Super Bowls, Ben Roethlisberger, 3 Super Bowls, 16. And now you got Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, and Joe Burrow, who for the foreseeable future are probably going to be ones every other year, probably in that Super Bowl, or at least close. Josh Allen might get there. He might prove me wrong, but for now, that's my take. So, I wish you guys all luck, and I'll see you next time. Hey there guys, if you enjoyed this content, please like, subscribe, and look forward to more videos. Most random, sometimes gaming, but I do enjoy sports too. Thanks again.